When Steve Jobs was asked what was the most difficult thing running Apple, he said that one of the trickiest but also most important things being a business leader is that you've got to be a really good talent scout.
You've got to be a really good talent scout.
This illustrates how important it is to get talented people to work with you. And to achieve that, companies need to put into place a smooth job application candidate journey which can boost the company's employer brand in order to get these talented people to work with you. Here are 10 things we should know about candidate journeys and employer branding. Number 1, poorly experienced candidate journeys do significant long-term damage to the company's employer brand. Research shows that over half of all employees have had negative and poor job application experiences, and that 72% of these people posted their negative experiences online, on social media sites such as Facebook and Twitter, as well as professional sites such as Glassdoor and LinkedIn. In fact, on Glassdoor, there is a specific section on application interviews where users can share their job application experience. So, if a company's candidate journey is filled with delays, unkept promises, and lack of respect, that does not bode so well for their image as an employer. Number 2, poor candidate journeys have negative effects on performance among those who are hired. Research has shown that those who had a poor candidate journey tend to exhibit lower levels of engagement, organizational justice perceptions, commitment, and loyalty in their subsequent job performance at that company. And this is to some extent evidenced by statistics that 65% of new hires start looking for a new job within 90 days of being hired, and that 71% of all people who are currently employed are actively looking for a new job. Look to your left, then look to your right. Both of those people are probably looking for a new job, and that is assuming you aren't. Number 3, organizations that actively map out their candidate journeys have a significant competitive advantage. It has been shown by research that those organizations that map out, monitor, and manage their candidate journeys experience over 60% higher applicant satisfaction. Mapping out all touch points in the candidate journey and engage in proper touchpoint management would ensure that job applicants have a smoother, more efficient, and more hospitable candidate experience. Number 4, applicants believe how you are treated during the application process is how you will be treated as an employee. In a recent research study, 78% of job seekers indicated that they believed how one is treated as a job applicant reflects how employees are treated in that organization. If the manager conducting the interview is rude, disrespectful, and condescending, one already gets a pretty good idea what it is like to work in that department. Number 5, applicants conduct extensive research on the employer. Prior to, as well as during the job application process, 81% of job seekers conduct extensive research on the hiring organization and its key people. This research tends to include the company's website, the company's social media pages, employer rating and ranking websites such as Glassdoor, and the social media pages of the company's key leaders and managers. Talking about touchpoint management, well, this is one of the first touchpoints between the candidate and the employer. Do most companies actually monitor and manage all these aspects? Probably not. Number 6, candidates referred by current employees are 4 times more likely to be hired. Employer branding is not only meant to target potential job applicants, it is meaningful for current employees as well. When current employees perceive the employer to be a good one, they are likely to refer acquaintances, and such referral applicants are shown to be 4 times more likely to be hired. Furthermore, a positive employer brand has been shown to elicit higher employee commitment, loyalty, and retention among current employees. Number 7, one-click applications and mobile device applications are important. Research has shown that younger job seekers much prefer one-click application functions and mobile device application functions when applying for jobs. They want the process to be easier and faster. Unlike older generations, for younger job seekers, applying for a job should not be such a big deal or a big hassle. Number 8, timeliness is key. Research shows that a crucial aspect in candidate journey touchpoint management is timeliness. This does not mean that the recruiting team has to answer every single email within an hour or having to arrive at a hiring decision on the same day of the interview. Of course, if you could do that, that'd be impressive. But what timeliness actually means in this context is setting up a reasonable timeline, clearly communicating this timeline to the candidate, and keeping your promised time of contact. If you say, you'll hear from us by the end of the week, well, that needs to happen. If you say, I'll give you a call at the end of the day today, well, then you must do it. Research has shown that all the positive effects of all the other well-managed touchpoints would be significantly diminished if timeliness was not delivered in the journey. Number 9, offers and rejections matter a great deal. A company accepting a candidate and making them an offer does not necessarily make that person happy, and a company rejecting a candidate does not necessarily upset them. Research indicates that when companies present the accepted candidates with low-ball offers, that would tend to demotivate and demoralize, so one should be cautious when to use such offers. Negotiable offers, market rate offers, and performance-based offers would all tend to result in better candidate journey experiences. And when it comes to the rejection call, which is often the last touch point for those who are rejected, there are also right ways to do it and wrong ways to do it. Some recruiters feel like that they have to justify their rejection decision in the rejection call or conversation, so they list everything in their perception that's wrong with the candidate. Why they think you're not good enough, or experienced enough, or qualified enough, or capable enough, etc. The result of that is the candidate is left feeling completely worthless. It is bad enough that you are rejecting me, but on top of that, you have to convince me that I am just so not good enough for you. I think I'll make another video about rejection calls in which I'll share with you some good examples and bad ones. Number 10, identify the most impactful touch points for improvement. Every single touch point is important, but some are more important than others. An organization's resources are not limitless, so when seeking to improve its candidate journey, one needs to identify not only the touch points that need improvement, but also the relative importance of those touch points. So some form of importance performance analysis would be quite useful so that the company's resources are used on the touch points and factors that have the greatest impact on the overall candidate journey. Alright, these are the 10 things I wanted to share with you about candidate journey and employer branding. Thanks for watching.